Hey, and welcome to Mental Health and You. My name is Cynthia Timms, and I'm your host. But more about me in a few minutes. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in today. This program will be about mental health, breaking down the barriers and hopefully the stigma of mental health in the Bronx community, but by extension, the broader community. And especially on this day, Black History Month, that mental health in the, which we would call, well, mental health in the Black community, people of color. To help me today, I have two special guests. Denise Rogers, she is a mental health, she's a peer advocate, peer specialist, working in the Bronx. And also I have Celia Brown, peer support pioneer in the Bronx and elsewhere. As I said earlier, enough about me. Well, I want to discuss me. I am a mental health advocate or peer support specialist. Now, you may ask, well, what is that? A peer support specialist is someone with lived experience in the mental health field as a consumer, as a participant, but now who has been trained to share my experiences and hopefully to help others. That's what I hope to do at this program, and I'm inviting others to come and help me as well. We're going to talk about not only the traditional part of mental health, as in therapy and medication, which is important, but we're going to talk about more alternative ways of mental health as well. I'm not only a mental health advocate, I'm not only a peer support specialist, but I'm a photographer, I'm a sailor, I'm an artist, I'm a writer. I'm here with you on this show. So we're not defined by a mental health diagnosis. We are more than that. We are people. We're your mothers, we're your fathers, we're your sisters, your brothers. And this is what we hope to convey. Thank you and welcome to Mental Health and You. No further ado, I'm going to talk now to my guest, my esteemed guest. And I'm going to start off with you, Ms. Brown, Celia Brown. As I said, peer support specialist in the Bronx, a founder of the movement. And talk about what brought you into this field. What is it? Why is it so important?
Well, I'm happy to say that peer support, a peer specialist, started in the Bronx, and I'm happy to say that I was a part of that. You know, as a pioneer, I was part of that. And I think it's important because people who have the lived experience, have been in the mental health system, they really have something to share with their fellow peers. And traditionally, it's always been social workers and psychiatrists and nurses, and that we were always being helped.
Right.
Instead of that we can also help others, we can support others. And I always loved that concept because I always found myself helping others, helping my fellow peers, whether in the hospital, on a unit, or outpatient, or wherever I am. And there was no title for it. I was just supporting my peers. And then when they came up with this title, peer specialist, and this job, I was so happy to be able to be employed.
Right. Talk about some of the challenges you had. You know, did you face any type of resentment from the more clinical side?
Yes.
Like what?
We were in a 5-year research project from the National Institute of Mental Health at Bronx Psychiatric Center, and we were working with intensive case managers at the time. And I remember being very excited about working with them and working with clinical staff and social workers. And it turned out that they weren't happy about working with me and the other peer specialists because they thought that we would be a burden. We would be
Really?
like one of the, we would be one of their clients, which that wasn't, we're working alongside them in partnership, so they didn't need to do that.
You sense they felt like you were maybe a threat to them, or?
Yes, they mentioned it. It
Really?
wasn't something in my head. They talked about this, and yeah, they felt we were a threat, that we were going to take their jobs, which wasn't true. But this is how they felt.
Wow.
So they were a little bit insecure about it. But, you know, eventually we did get together, and we worked together, and they understood who we were. It was a new role. I had to explain it all the time. What is a peer specialist? And we had something to share that they didn't have. Like, you know, a lot of us have been on benefits.
Right.
I've been on benefits, so I understand the whole system. You know, medications, or, you know, different things that I could share with them to inform them in order for them to help their own clients.
Wow.
So I think that is an expertise.
Wow, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And can you talk about, from that time, where has the peer movement gone since that day, that time in the Bronx?
Oh, wow. Well, the state, on February 2nd, talking about Black History Month, February 2nd, 1994, the project ended like a year before, 1993. But I was a part of a group to get more positions for civil service titles in the system.
Really? Okay.
So it would be a peer specialist, grade 9, and grade 9 is the salary range. That would have been about, at that time, $21,000 a year. And I remember working with the Office of Mental Health personnel and some different advocates. I also worked with Peter Stasny and Darby Penny and, you know, some other people to really make this happen. So it wouldn't just be for me, but it would be for peers all over New York City or New York State who could really be employed, that they didn't have to be in low-paying jobs. They could be in full-time positions with benefits. They can be in the union. And remember, the thinking then was that people who were diagnosed with a mental illness could not work. They could not get well. They would probably not recover. And that was the thinking then. And so this is a way of showing everyone in the system and in the public that people with a mental illness do recover. And they can work, and employment does lead to recovery. So February 2nd, I went up to Albany, and I talked to any civil service title, like, you know, social work, nurse, rehab assistant, has to be approved by the Civil Service Commission. And unanimously, they approved it, and they wanted, like, you know, 100 positions, and it was really a great moment in time, and it's our history, not just my history. And it wasn't until 1998 that we've gotten peer specialists hired with the state in outpatient clinics, so we didn't have them on inpatient as other hospitals do. But I was really always very proud of that, and still am. And I see that it's expanded not only in New York City and New York State, but they are all over the United States. They're peer specialists everywhere. And they're different. They're peer support specialists or
peer advocates, yes, indeed.
Wellness coaches, you know. So there's different titles, which is fine, you know. But it really is needed, and it's an important part of the life of the peer who's actually employed, and it's important as they're trying to change the lives of other fellow peers. That's very important.
And have you seen over the years maybe a more respect from the more clinician side, or you still facing any type of resistance, or has it changed a little?
I think that it's changed a little bit. I think there's more respect from clinicians, but I do think that at times clinicians just say, well, let's get a peer because we need that peer to have this client take meds.
Absolutely, that's been my experience.
And that's really not our role. I mean, we can help help them be clear on what it is they want to do.
Right.
Whether it's taking meds, whether it's going to therapy, and how to communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
We're good at helping to communicate
Mm-hmm.
to your doctor, but it's not us to say, take your meds, did you take your meds?
Right.
That's not our role. But I think that it's gotten better over time, and I think there's a little bit of resistance, and I also think that a lot of agencies really don't know what we do, and they want to understand the role better. So I do a lot of training in mental health agencies who want to hire peers.
That's
and
awesome.
What is the role, and what is the supervision that they could get.
That's awesome. Well, that's been my experience, too. I mean, I haven't been in the field as long as you have, but in my experience, as a peer specialist, I've noticed some resistance in the clinician side.
Yeah.
I would go to all these meetings, I would go to all these trainings, sit on these boards, and there'd be oftentimes a social worker present, a case manager present, the director of this program, the program manager of that program. And it was like, oftentimes it's like we're a charity case there. As I was relaying to you earlier, I sit on the board of the statewide multicultural committee.
Mm-hmm.
And since 2015, and the chairman at that time, whose name shall remain, I don't want to give her
That's okay.
more. I don't want to give her more. I don't want to make her more notorious than she already is. But she said one day, if we are to have peers on the board, now this is a committee, mind you, composed of supposed to be not only clinicians but peer support specialists from all over the state, whose aim is to help make a way better for peers,
Mm-hmm.
whose aim is to help, make life better.
Mm-hmm.
And for us not to be on the board, for her husband make it seem like us being there was, I dare say, a burden, like a charity case. Mm-hmm. I tell you, I've never been so upset.
Yeah.
I had never been so upset. It was almost like you were belittling me.
Yes.
When you were questioning my humanity. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. That's okay. And that was the only time I even thought about quitting. But I'm glad I didn't. I wrote a letter to the facilitator as I was going home on the Amtrak.
Right.
That wonderful ride down the Amtrak. On the Amtrak back to New York City from Albany.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm here for a purpose.
Right.
God has put me here.
Yes.
My talents has put me here. My abilities, my skills has put me here. I'm here for a reason. And I always felt, what can I do? Yes, peers, because we need to be there. We need to let the public know. We need to let these clinicians know, that we're more than the sum of our parts.
Yes.
We're artists. We are the experts in our field. Mm-hmm. If I don't want to take a particular medicine, let me tell you why I don't want to take it. Right. If I have a problem with a psychiatrist or with a therapist, somebody like you, let me tell you why. Mm-hmm. And to be able to sit and talk to these people. So I get what you're saying. And I still see that pushback sometimes. Yeah. I still see it, but slowly but surely, hopefully, it's getting better.
Yeah.
And which leads me to the fellow peer specialist, Ms. Denise Rogers, working peer specialist. Thank you for joining us on this first airing of Mental Health and You. Tell me, Ms. Rogers, Ms. Denise, what's brought you into this field?
First I want to say thank you, Cynthia, for inviting me to be here. Thank you, Celia, for the things the movement you have done for just in general mental health.
Thank you.
I would say what brought me to the field of being a peer specialist, I wanted to change the word stigma to translate into education. And as a peer, we do that. Whether it may be a mental health issue, I would say, with a family member, a friend, or our own personal experience. Mm-hmm. But I think the change starts here and now. Mm-hmm. And being a peer specialist, I would say my most rewarding thing is I'm part of a movement that will move into the future, how we look at mental health in general, the resources we have for our community, the fact that for many years, neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods of color,
Yes.
have been crying out for assistance, mental health, schools, community in general. But
do
as a
they
peer
know?
specialist, we bring
do
that.
they know that they're crying out? It's interesting that you say that, Denise. You know, because, I mean, communities of color, going from times of slavery, post-traumatic slave syndrome, you know, racism, all other types of isms that cause mental health issues, you know? Do we even know sometimes that we have it and that we do need that? You talk about the need that we have, but how do you break down that barrier?
I think that's part of education. Not only coming with the resources, but asking the questions, helping someone look in the mirror and define what they need. And in most of our communities, mental health has been an issue that people whisper about.
Yes.
And we want to take it out of the closet. And as a peer specialist, as well as you being a peer specialist, you may recognize there are many people who come to us and ask, what is a peer specialist?
Yes.
That's our opportunity to educate not just that person, but our communities on the whole.
So what is a peer specialist to you?
I always try to make it just short and sweet. We basically are people that may have issues with mental health, family, friends, or sometimes our own personal life experience. But as a peer specialist, I'm willing to share. I'm willing to assist that person with their wellness. As Sue said, we do not make the decision for you, but we will help you on that journey for wellness and recovery.
Excellent. And wellness and recovery, you said something about that wellness part. Does that just mean going to, because we share, we are allowed to share? This question's for you as well as this.
Okay.
So what does that mean also, that wellness part? Does that just mean taking medication and seeing your therapist and seeing your psychiatrist, which is important? But what else can we do? How can we begin to open up that conversation about this is also mental wellness? This is also about taking care of yourself. How can we best,
Having a person recognize I am more than a label of mental health illness. I am a whole person. Like you said, I am an artist. It is not a matter of saying illness first, person second. We put person first. Who you are, what you want to accomplish. Your mental health is just part of you. It's not your entire person.
So tell me about that artistry in you that keeps you going.
Well, for one, I am the kind of person, when I'm feeling stressed, I will get my canvas out, my paint, turn on my music, and let that part of me come to the surface. To me, that is my counseling. To me, that is where I start with my wellness. And when I find I may need additional help, there's resources. There's resources in any community. I can only speak particularly of the Bronx because I am a cheerleader for the Bronx. But there's places like, for example, Bronx Care. They have clinics when it comes to children, adults, inpatients, addictions, depression. The resources are there. I just will hope that people will welcome those resources and use them.
What about you?
Well, I think wellness is broad. For me, I really do have to do self-care. And
So what is self-care? What does that mean?
self-care means really taking care of your needs and also having some boundaries. Like sometimes peers are asked to do so much. And sometimes we have to say, no, not right now. Doesn't mean that we, don't want to be helpful. But if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others.
Right.
So if you're not taking maybe a day off, if you can, to take care of your needs, if you're not doing things like getting your hair done, which is important, or going on a retreat, or doing yoga, or doing exercising, going to the gym, things like that, that's self-care. That's caring about yourself so you can care about other people.
And it's okay to do that.
Yes.
Oftentimes I've come across, and I'm guilty of that myself. I'm always I'm like the professional caregiver.
Yeah, I am too. We
You
all are, yeah.
I am the professional caretaker, and like that very idea of doing something for me. Maybe I just want to sleep in late. you know?
Right.
Maybe I want to take myself out to breakfast one day.
Yes.
But I find myself, oh, do I really have the time for this? And if I do stay in bed, does that make me lazy?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like I'm, as this professional caretaker, professional caregiver, like there's sometimes in me, I guess I've been brought up that way because we were always taking care of somebody, especially as black women.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's just innate in us,
Yeah.
I mean, now I have to say, is it okay to take care of me? And the idea that I have to ask myself that sometime.
It is okay. I mean, it's taken me a while. I totally understand. Because I was taking care of people, and people were calling me all hours of the night. So they gave my phone number, and I found out later you don't have to do that. You can just speak to them the week after, and it's okay, or the day after.
Yes.
But not during your time at home. You're not at work now. You're at home.
Yes.
So it took me a while to do that boundary because I always wanted to be there for my peers, but was I being there for myself?
Hello.
And I wasn't. And when you're not there for yourself, you can't be there for them. And it's okay to sleep late, like you said, or take a walk, watch TV, do music. Music is my thing. I love music. Do things that really make you feel good about who you are.
Yes.
It's important.
Wow. So what makes you feel good about who you are?
That's a good question. I was listening to you what you're saying about taking care of yourself. When you take care of yourself, you are actually taking care of everyone because you are the connection. But what makes me feel good? I love to walk. I will walk from the Brooklyn Bridge, probably downtown Manhattan.
Oh, you're that person.
Yes,
that.
I am a walker.
Okay. We have Metro cards
Right,
now.
okay.
Oh, wow.
You see me a little wave. Hi, it's me. Yes,
Okay,
I'm a walker.
Okay. And you talk about your artistry, your artwork.
My art is a part of me that I like to bring to the surface to nurture me. I think that as peer working in this field, we nurture other people, but we have to have time for ourselves. So I would take the afternoon, I get my paints, turn on my music, and just relax.
I like to tell, this is also mental health care. This is also about taking care of yourself, finding the time in the course of your busy day of taking care of yourselves, telling yourself it's okay. Take that time to sit down. Take that time to laugh. But be it as it may, tell me about what makes you.
Well, this is going to sound funny. What I like to do is I like to organize. So I like to, I have organized conference calls with support or project. I'm that person that people go to organize, and I actually love doing it. It's not a burden. I like to create things, and I like to help people who want to create, help them create things.
Awesome.
So that's sort of like being a facilitator, or I don't know what it's called, but I have always done that. And
it's called the organizer, right?
Yeah, like I like to organize.
That's okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So, and I do that in in my family too.
And
in
I really,
events.
it's been my realization also. It's been that if everyone's organized, it creates that, it makes you feel better.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
If I can just get somebody to organize my house now, I'm organized, I'll be fine. But yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, because organization brings like peace.
It does.
You don't have a lot of stuff on the floor. You don't have a lot of stuff hanging there and there. So
Right.
yes, it brings a certain calm. It brings a certain peace. So absolutely,
Yeah.
I get it.
And I like to bring out, because I see a lot of talents in people, and sometimes I think they just need support bringing it out.
Okay.
And I like to do that and see what they create. It's just been a real joy to me to do that.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So you see, mental health is more about just taking medication, as I said before, and going to your therapist. That's part of it. But how else are you doing it? Are you giving yourself time and permission just to be you for the day, to lie down, to do your artwork, to be the organizer? What is it that you're doing? What is it that makes you happy? What is it that makes you sad? and you just don't want to do that right now. That's what mental health is about. This show, again, is called Mental Health in You. Why is it called Mental Health in You? Because your mental health is about you. This is a personal thing. Yes, this is about taking care of others. This is about taking care of your bills, but it's also about what are you doing? What are you doing for you in the midst of all this chaos going on? Sometimes I need to turn off the TV.
Oh,
Don't turn
God,
off this show, but I need to turn off, TV sometimes. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
As much and this comes from the number one news junkie. I love the news.
Me too.
I absolutely love it, and it's necessary. I'm not saying to be oblivious to it, because a lot of it has to do with, how we're going to be taken care of.
Correct.
And the necessary benefits. That's not a bad word, benefits, okay?
But it also causes trauma.
There you go.
And I also have to say, you know what, I have to turn the news off. Okay, enough. I know what's going on. Because that becomes inside of you, and it makes you feel stressed.
So you turn off the drama, and I turn on something funny.
Right.
I turn on some music.
Right.
I may take a walk. And these are things in the coming months of this show, hopefully, that we're going to get to talk about.
That'll be great.
There's hiking groups. There's swimming groups.
There's investing in you.
There's investing in you groups.
Correct.
Hello. There is swimming. There is sailing clubs. Some catering to people who look just like us. So yes, we do hike. We do go camping. We do go sailing. We're knitters. We're everything. And we are people with mental health. And that's very important. Because mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Yes, it is.
Just as important. When I feel good mentally, I feel good physically. When I get a good night's rest, I feel good. We talk about that so much in mental health and peer support, the importance of a good night's sleep, if you can.
Oh, yeah.
I know we all live busy lives. We all going here and there and whatnot. But it's just the importance of good night's sleep, closing your eyes, turning off your cell phones, turning off the TV set, turning off the computer. Just being you. Just being you and God, or whatever you call him or her. Just being one with nature, being one with your art, being one with your organizing, and maybe just being one, in that boat. Think about that. As we start to wrap up Mental Health and You, our first airing, I will encourage you, particularly people who look like us, in this Black History Month, as we talk about so much, the pioneers that went through so much, just take this time to reflect. My goodness, we stand on the shoulders of people who had it so much worse than us. It's not easy, but it is possible. So again, thank you for Mental Health in You. Thank you for being a part of our pilot airing. And I hope to see you soon. Good day and peace.